I have to say, I guess an official welcome. I don't know if this is, Sean will make this more official, but certainly welcome to the first doctoral workshop of the year. Again, as the Dean of the College of Public Affairs and Administration, Public Administration, the MPA program, the DPA program fall under the college. I happen to hold my doctorate degree in public administration, so this is all sort of near and dear to me. So again, and I'm just excited to see you all here and to be maybe a small part, only a small part, of these series of workshops that are being offered, because I think it constitutes rather important components of your overall education, your training, and I think experiences in the DPA program. So please try to take advantage of those. I also have to acknowledge the hard work and dedication by Dr. Sean McCandless in planning, preparing, and offering these workshops. Thank you, Sean. And hats off to Dr. Travis Bland. Because as the DPA program director, he's certainly assembled this outstanding class, one of the largest in the history of the program, and we're just very glad that you're here and taking your next step towards your doctorate. I'm actually flattered. Hope you don't mind. I do have probably a couple comments that I'd like to share with you before we get to the sort of the meat and potatoes, I suppose, of the workshop today. But I'm certainly flattered to be here to just spend maybe a few moments to talk about and maybe offer some reflections on the importance of research and its connection in particular to practice. First, I have to say that the need for more rigorous and systematic research in public administration has grown as the complexity of problems in government, in nonprofit organizations, and frankly in society have increased. The information and approaches and strategies that you glean from these various workshops will offer some detailed information and some approaches to conceptualize, to plan, and to implement your research across a variety of topics in areas of interest to you. So, so tonight, I guess I'd like to frame my overall remarks around what I guess I would describe this as sort of a big picture question. And I'd like to start by just offering this question, which if we had time, I'd love to ask each of you your thoughts about this. But, the question is, why is research important? It certainly is my firm conviction that in the field of public administration, the main purpose of research is to inform action. But it's also to prove theory. It's also to contribute to developing the knowledge in a particular field of study. Now, all three, of course, are related, but public administration, I think, is in particular a discipline that inherently blends theory and practice. That's what attracted me to this field, and I know that's what's important to all of you. Maybe a few more generic observations about research. And please, we could maybe talk about these later. You can agree or disagree with these points. But research, it seems to me, is a tool for building knowledge and facilitating learning. Probably that's number one on the list. A second observation would be that research is a means to understand important public issues and thereby increase public awareness and engagement in those issues. Research also forges a pathway for organizational success. It's a basis for speaking truth to power, something we desperately need, I think, these days. Research is a process that allows you to identify and embrace and seize opportunities. Please don't lose sight of that element. Research is a platform for sharing valuable information to the community and those around us. And lastly, research is very much the foundation for continued intellectual growth. And I think those are all very, very important. And sometimes as we're getting into our various research projects, or certainly when you're in the midst of your dissertation, sometimes we lose our grounding a little bit in what research is all about. Therefore, I guess that's in summary, a way to say that is that research is therefore not just an imperative, but it really is a passion. And I hope it's your passion. Maybe just a few more thoughts. research, I think, is required not just for students and academics, but it's for all professionals, right? Across the various fields and across the various sectors as well. It offers a pathway for students, for faculty, and for practitioners on how various methods can be used to help answer those emerging theoretical, public policy, and non-market organization management questions. The ultimate problem in research, I suppose, is impact. How researchers can overcome elusive, sometimes tricky, oftentimes sizable barriers to influence other researchers, public and nonprofit decision makers, the citizens in non-market organizations, and the foundations and grant-making entities that make the enterprise of public administration research oftentimes possible. So whether your research takes you towards qualitative methodology or a quantitative track perhaps, good research requires that you embrace both and that you understand both approaches. And of course, as Sean and the other faculty members have, I think, shared with you, there of course are various ontological, epistemological, and methodological bases for conducting research in any of the social sciences. I would just say choose what makes sense for you and for your research project. Also, maybe just a comment on the research practice gap in our field. Sometimes that's been viewed as an eternal dilemma between public administration academics and practitioners. And it certainly, over the years, has fostered a great deal of writing about how to bridge that gap. And of course, the simple fact is that there is a role for both. But no matter how you frame or conceptualize your research, remember that as a student in this professional doctorate program, you have, I think, a very unique vantage point to embrace the practical, to make a difference, to apply your research to improve government and public policy, or whatever field or approach you're taking in terms of your subject of your studies, but essentially to make a difference for everyday citizens. Today's workshop, let me just say, if I may make a couple remarks, and certainly it'll be reinforced, I think, in forthcoming workshops. But I do have to say that I think this is perhaps the most important workshop. Finding the research question and creating conceptual frameworks, I think, are the key to getting to the end point of the doctoral dissertation. Your research question helps focus your entire research enterprise. A well-developed research question is a process that does take time. And don't be discouraged if it does take time. As you also search the literature or other sources for information as a basis for your research question, continue to evaluate your question with the lens of, is it too broad? Is it too narrow? Revising and fine-tuning your research questions, I think, is just an inherent part of the process. And again, don't be discouraged or distracted by that. Finally, I guess, if I may, don't be hesitant about asking bold questions and important questions and career-defining questions in many respects. But at the same time, keep your feet on the ground. And what I mean by that is make sure your dissertation research is doable, feasible, and viable. And that is, of course, where your dissertation chair or the other members of the faculty in our program come into play. On a personal note, and I'll wrap up in just a second, you should all know, or at least I'd like to share this with you, that I obtained my doctoral degree while I balanced a busy career and family and other regular life issues. I was a senior budget official in New York State, working under both Governors Cuomo and Pataki. It's a long time ago, so that dates me a little. And at the time, it was hard, and sometimes there were many distractions. But I hung in there. And I would ask you simply to please do the same, or try your best to hang in there. In my case, the goal was to become a professor and have that firsthand opportunity to bring real-world practical experience into the classroom as an aid to teach my students. And I did that for several years. My reward was knowing that I was able to impart a sense of the importance of public service and to the very fabric of democratic society, and tried to impart that to young people and others in my classroom, and maybe perhaps enlighten a few minds, but again with the goal of trying to make a difference in society. Maybe that's kind of bold. Maybe I never got there, but at least I'd like to think I tried to help make a difference. And I guess my point there is just that I know that's why all of you are here and in this program. Don't lose that vision or that passion. Get your doctorates. But I guess first things first, let's get your research questions straight. I thank you. Please do stay in touch. My office is really always open, and please enjoy tonight's workshop. And again, have a good evening.